Welcome, listeners, to Assiduous Dust, episode number 1 of season 2. It's a brand new year. I'm your host, Joshua Corwin, and I am so excited. A lot of great stuff, groovy stuff I have for you today. And today I have with us Michael Rothenberg. Here's a little bit about Michael Rothenberg. Don't tell Michael, I'm checking my cheat sheet. Michael Rothenberg is the co-founder of 100,000 Poets for Change and co-founder of Poets in Need, a nonprofit 501c3 assisting poets in crisis. Recent books of poetry of his include Drawing the Shade, published with Madres Press in 2016, The Pillars with Contagion Press in 2020, and I Murdered Elvis with Ellyn Maybe Press 2020. I guess some people think that Elvis might have been absorbed by aliens, so that makes a good publication press for the right thing. I love it. A bilingual edition of Indefinite Detention, a dog story, which was published by Varasek Ediciones in Madrid, Spain, and that's in 2017. In 2020, an Arabic edition of Indefinite Detention, a dog story, was published in Cairo, Egypt by Arwiqa Publishers. Rothenberg lives in Tallahassee, Florida, where he is the Florida State University Library's poet in residence. Thank you, Michael. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so, you know, did I pronounce that correctly? Is it Arwiqa Publishers?
I don't know. You know, it sounded really good.
It sounded really good.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
Yeah, I don't know too much. I don't know Arabic, Egyptian, or what. I do know. I did study some medieval Islamic philosophy, but maybe I have yet to write in ghazals. So I'm curious, is there some unique, weird thing that you'd like to write poems, doing? Like, let's say, maybe write poems jumping out of an airplane with a parachute, or that would be a silly version. Or let's say, is there also a serious version that you have yet to do, writing poetry that you'd like to do?
I kind of been working on that. I mean, I did, years back. I write mostly out of journals, and so I went to Russia with my parents, my mother, and my brother and my ex-wife, and I had such a great experience. And it was so mind-boggling, but I couldn't write, and I don't know why. I just couldn't capture things. So I kind of made it a point when I got back to bring my journal to me wherever I went and under any circumstances, so that when I was in a place where I really, really wanted to get something going, I was kind of oiled up and prepared. I like casinos. I would go to casinos and walk around writing in crowds and restaurants, of course.
And I hope they didn't, rough you up and think you were.
No, it felt weird though. I mean, it's like everybody's gambling and drinking and everything like that, and I'm sitting.
And you have your, journal.
I'm writing, and it felt really awkward. And I thought, well, that's good, because I don't want to. I want to be able to write when I need to write. If I wanted to, if I really feel like I'm in a place and it's pretty blowing my mind, and I really want to write down something, I want to have I want to be there, be prepared.
Yeah.
So it helped me I've never jumped out of an airplane, so I don't really.
Spoiler alert, neither have I, but we can, once the pandemic's over and everything, we can buddy up, we'll get our journals and we'll go jump out and we'll just write. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, just to make it really work well, I'll stay on the ground and I'll record it from the ground. And then you could jump.
You'll journal while I jump, and you'll be like, just, like
You
it's
journal
emotion of drastic. Yeah.
Right, you journal coming down, and I'll journal from observing you falling, so that we
Yeah.
would have it from two perspectives. Okay.
Yeah. You could call it jumping into perspective.
Okay, there you go. So there it would be a collaborative journal, and that way I wouldn't have to jump out of the plane.
Right. But I guess it feels like, these days, like we might have been, like we have been jumping out of a plane, I guess it really feels that way.
Yeah, we're definitely well.
So
It may
how,
be even stranger than that.
yeah, so how has, you know, I guess with the pandemic and everything, you've been, I guess it's been limited of where you're gonna go, where you're gonna go to, and you're kind of like, okay, maybe I'm journaling more at home or maybe at some parks. How does that work? How has that shifted with your, I guess in terms of practicing self-care and balance, things that at least me as a writer, I'm not too good with.
I've taken the opportunity of this time to go back over my work from the beginning of time and my time, and
Okay.
editing that stuff. And so I found a tremendous amount of work that I had neglected and didn't edit and felt like I could edit and work on. So that's what I've been doing. I began some new work in November, but mostly over the last, what is it, 9 months or whatever it is, 8 months, I have been editing my old work and putting it into manuscripts.
Right.
So
So I guess you're putting together a collected works, I guess, of the Rothenberg files. So
well, it's funny. I said to myself, do I want 10 books, or do I want one book that's 10 books long, or 10 books that's one, whatever, you know what I'm trying to say.
I know what you're saying.
It's like I think it's turning out that I'm ending up with, like, I don't know, maybe 5 books, 5 single books, and one book made of 3 books, something like that.
Yeah.
I'm playing it by ear. But it's been a good thing. I found things that I had written in 1975 that I had never edited, never thought that they were worthwhile, that they were kind of juvenile or something.
And some of those, I guess, are the best things. I've been finding out for myself, I'm a young lad, a young poet, though I have an old soul, that in fact, that some of the things like that you haven't touched upon or looked at are sometimes like usually like, I don't know about this. It's like, whoa, that's the best stuff. And I guess things kind of come up and bubble up when they need to.
Actually, this year, Virgil Suarez was looking at my stuff that I'd been unearthing, and he actually asked to publish The Pillars, which is he Virgil and I, we share a lot of our art back and forth these days, and he wanted to include some of my drawings, so we had it includes the first one of the earliest poems I've ever written. That was actually, it's a poem I gave to my professor in college to ask him whether he thought that I could be a poet.
I have a very interesting, story. I had a creative writing, professor who I had in freshman, and then, I was totally high for like those classes and stuff. And then, I got sober and eventually kind of saw him again. He actually ended up writing the intro to my book. And he ended up sending me on my way because he's like, you should, after thesis, he's like, maybe you should submit a poem somewhere. So it's weird, the people we meet. Would you, describe this professor? Would you describe him? Paint us a picture for him.
Well, Forrest Reed, he was a great Pound scholar. He was friends with Pounds, and he would go to Italy every summer and work on writing about the cantos, and he was a great poetry professor, very good, very cool guy. And he inspired me a lot. And I asked him, I said, what do you think? And he said to me, you have a hard life ahead of you. That was his whole statement. And
You
I took
have a
that.
hard life ahead of you. And I guess that's, you could interpret that in so many ways. And
I took it positively.
okay,
It meant I would be busy writing poetry.
okay. Yeah, and also I guess you get to,
I didn't know how hard it was going to be, though.
yeah, and it's interesting, I
If I
wonder,
had known how hard it was going to be, I might have run in terror.
well, I guess there's a similar things, liking it to kind of was going on, and I guess still is with our country, that we could kind of hide in terror, or we could take note of it, make observations, and we could also maybe act on it. We could, or we could realize, this is hard. This is a real struggle. This is a challenge. There's a lot going on, and what can we do about it? I don't know. Maybe I'm forcing a metaphor here.
Well, anyway, so Virgil actually wanted this particular piece, and it was really interesting to see it go in print and remember sitting in this professor's office in 1972, I think it was. What is that, 30, 50 years ago or something like that?
Whatever it is. I'm a math major. I'm terrible with numbers. So I study math. So yeah.
Having him feel that this was worthwhile communicating right now as new, which is something I think we all have to think about too in our work, about whether something, seeing that it's poetry, it wouldn't make sense for us to be judging things based on how new they are.
Yeah.
If a poem's great from 300 years ago,
a poem's great.
Right, so why couldn't it be? I'm not saying it was great. I'm just saying that, time is this is not a new product that we're talking about, like a new car. It's not a car, it's a poem.
Yeah, but I guess, sometimes, I guess a poem is a vehicle in a way.
Well, I knew you were going to go there,
Oh,
yeah.
I'm going to go there.
Yeah, I know. Yes, and a poem is a car, and a car is a house, and but
no, a car is not a house.
It's like, well, it depends. If for some people it is.
That's true. Yes.
So but we did publish it, and I'm very happy with it. And it was strange, and it's been an interesting year of editing and visiting experiences and perspectives that I haven't looked at in a long time.
Yeah. Are there any particular, perspectives that, I guess, memories or something that particularly that, you felt have resurfaced during this time? Any others particularly that maybe, have helped you grow or brought some solace or some insight into
one of the things that I wrote in 1974 or 5 was called Sonia, and it was about my first girlfriend, my first love, and she committed suicide, and I had written about it to kind of get myself through it, but I never felt that I had finished it or could finish it or could get myself around it. It was too emotional, and I didn't. And I thought maybe it was just too emotional of a piece to even think about. And actually, this year I did finish it, and which brought me to that place and made me think a lot about like you're asking about emotions, and made me think about things that have been going on in my life.
Yeah.
So it was good, and it gave me, I had perspective. There was Michael, the 24-year-old
Mhm.
man looking, the
And
Michael,
then there's Michael.
the 70-year-old man looking at the Michael 24-year-old man and watching, looking at how he was thinking.
Yeah. And so, you know, what do you see when you look at the mirror, when you look back and you reflect, you know, what does, any words of advice to young Michael, kind of thinking about how the world, like, of ways that other individuals who might be struggling to come to terms about certain, writing about certain conflicts or emotional things that need to, yeah.
I think that what we do too much of is we judge ourselves too hard, and we come to conclusions about what we think and feel as being, like I said, juvenile, or being too emotional or too passionate, or, you know, naive, or this and that, whatever baggage, whatever we do to I don't know, to batter ourselves.
Yeah, I'm guilty of self-defecating in my mind, you know.
We need to be able to have more have mercy towards ourselves, and take the works that we do and not think so much about what other people are going to think, but think about what we are trying to say and what we need to say, and say what we want to say, regardless of what we think, how we think we're going to be judged.
Absolutely. And that's, you know, it's hard because I find, like, for me, it's like, you know, speaking of with suicide and stuff, or certain things, you know, been dealing with some suicidal ideation. I had an experience in December, and I was open about it and wrote something and put it up. And it's like, man, I would never really write about that. I'd never do that kind of stuff. And I'm realizing, like, that and kind of stuff dealing with depression and stuff, it's like, that's something I don't really talk about. That's something that I kind of, you know, shrug under the rug, so to speak.
Well, I had all kinds of, I had like, there's things like, well, recently, 2 years ago, my son died. He died from drug overdose.
Yeah.
And he was 27.
Yeah.
And
I'm 27, by the way.
Your age.
Yeah.
And
yes.
so,
and I'm a you know, recovering drug.
He was a young lad like you.
Yeah.
And I think that I thought I shouldn't. I need to write about it because writing is my way of communicating. I don't. It's like I was so overwhelmed with grief that I couldn't speak about it. Like, if people said, "How are you doing, Michael?" I couldn't even speak. I was I mean, really, and all I could do was write about what was going on. I wasn't speaking to anyone. And it got to a point where people say, well, come on, man, tell me what's going on. And I'd say, okay, here. I'd give him a page from the book that I was working on, that I wrote for him, called Walking on Air. And I'd say that this is what I'm trying to say. This is what I'm thinking. If this says what I'm trying to say. So but I got really hung up about it because I was thinking also, well, you know, you're writing this book about your son and his death, and you're going to probably want to publish it and this and that. And then you're exploiting his death, and you're exploiting your grief, or you're exploiting it. And I got like all hung up about it, that like I was exploiting it. And I didn't like
some of the mental mishigas going on.
Yeah, I needed to write it. I had no choice but to write it. But then came this other thing, is like sharing it and making it available. And I actually had to go and talk to some counselors about whether it was okay to share it. It's weird, you know, I don't know. It's like, I don't know what that had to do with guilt, you know, feeling I could have been a better father and something like that, or what it was. But I realized that as I was working on the poem on Lindsay, I mean, one of the things probably that's a girl who committed suicide. One of the things that hung me up on that then was guilt and feeling, what could I have done to help her? I mean, what could I have done? I was a young man who didn't even understand anything about it. But this is in a time when even the word suicide was like, no one even said it. And no one talked about this stuff. It was all hush hush. I mean, now we're in this other time when people talk about it. So I had to work my way through it. So in revisiting the piece that I wrote when I was 24, and revisiting now, almost 2 years after my son's death, um, it it made me think a lot about communicating and what I need to say, and what you can do to, how can you control another person's life? Can you save them? Can you? No, I couldn't do it then, and I couldn't do it now, and no matter how much I cared. So yeah, it was a kind of resonance between those two times.
Yeah, and I guess yeah, there are no words to say. There are no words to say. You know, I don't know why I'm sharing about this, but there was somebody that I knew who, who I kind of mentored. It just comes up naturally. Who had I'm on the spectrum. I have autism, ADHD, processing delay, the whole works. And there was somebody that I mentored who had all that stuff and was about the same age as me. I'm also a recovering alcoholic and addict, and this individual was too. He was also white, male, Jewish, same as me, also an only child, and he ended up, dying, ODing, and dying of stuff. And what's the difference between why you have so much similar neurophysiology and this happens, and I have no clue why. And it was like I was looking at a mirror. And it just doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. And I don't know what I'm supposed to get from it, or if there's anything that's supposed to be gotten from it. But I guess
There's this guy, Stephen Levine, who wrote this book called Unattended Sorrows. I don't know if you know the book. Someone passed it on to me, and I liked it. And I'm not a big fan of self-help books. I don't generally go to them. And some reason I can't really think of it as a self-help book, but it is written to help people with the issues with grieving. And this idea that this unattended sorrow is something that's inside of us, that maybe, we all have them. It's not only just death, it's loss, it's different things that happen in our life that cause us to grieve, and they stay within us, and they're unattended. We haven't, and that we need to find ways to, go to them and deal with them, understand them. And one of his concepts, and you heard me say the word mercy, I think, before.
Yes.
One of his ideas is mercy, and it really stuck with me. The idea of showing mercy to yourself and showing mercy to other people. I mean, like, I have a lot of hostility about, maybe other people in my son's life, and that I feel like could be responsible, or Lindsay's parents and this and that going back. And they said those people all suffered. The parents suffered tremendously. And I was very, very angry at them. And I went and so it's not just the forgiving yourself and showing yourself mercy, but it's also showing mercy in general. So towards other people. And
I guess also forgiving the yourself for the anger.
For everything. For everything.
Would you happen to want to read that piece?
For my son?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a couple of pieces if I could read those.
Yeah.
Dead kids, collateral damage of the NRA, pharmaceutical companies, immigration policies. Don't talk to me about pro-life, because that fetus you want to save today will be sacrificed tomorrow to this gross and violent experiment in greed and hate. Dead kids, that's what we get every day, what this country makes best. The new homegrown product made in America, a country in grieving. Dead kids, it makes me sick. The dead children, yes, we're angry snowflakes and we will take you down. Dead kids, shot dead in the street by racist cops, bombed to death on a beach in Gaza, starved to death while the rich get fatter, drowning for diamonds to be worn on Main Street, burned to death in toxic Bangladesh tanneries. Dead kids, we don't know how to stop it, but there will be more for everyone when the kids are dead. Dead kids, shot dead in the street by racist cops, bombed to death on a beach in Gaza. Dead kids, dead kids, dead kids. We don't know how to stop it.
Thank you.
This is the other one.
Yeah.
When the news came in and I didn't know what to say, poetry saved me. When I wrote it down and put it in an envelope and drew a heart on the envelope and addressed it to you, my son, and covered the envelope with the good things I could remember we did together, fishing for bass in Lake Jackson, mountain biking in the Pyrenees, snorkeling in the Keys, pizza at Steve's. You were too young to watch Donnie Darko, but I didn't know what it was about, and we watched, and you laughed about it later, how inappropriate it was. And riding over the Oregon dunes. And when I put that envelope in your casket and sent your body into the flames, poetry saved me. That thing I wrote down, that prayer I put in the envelope that went with you, I think it was poetry. It must have been. For whenever I have been speechless, poetry saved me. My head felt like it would explode with memories, good and bad. My chest swelled full of tears, and I couldn't breathe, and I thought I was going to vomit and didn't know where to run. Poetry saved me. My friends wrote to me and asked how I was doing. Was I all right? And I couldn't explain in ordinary words, though the pieces of what I felt lived somewhere in an ordinary way. And when those words were scattered and torn and burned and screaming for context, syntax, bruised, so I didn't know how to answer, poetry saved me. When I learned more about your life after your death than I knew when you were alive, and you were my child, and I thought I should have known everything about you, or much more about you. And the things I found out made me scream through the house until my vocal cords were hopeless and raw. Poetry saved me. When I found out from your friends, the ones you didn't drive away with your bad manners, your inappropriate and unsociable outbursts, the friends who saw your larceny as good fun, as nothing malicious, the ones who told me you never meant to hurt anyone, even though you did, that because you didn't know what you were doing, because your heart was gold, that the mess you left behind was okay. When I heard that, poetry saved me. When I realized it would do no good to judge you, that you suffered for years and we could not save you, poetry saved me. You were isolated and poetry saved me. You were confused and poetry saved me. When I felt guilt and shame, poetry saved me. When you called me on Father's Day for the first time without prodding from your mother, and it was 9 a.m. here and 6 a.m. there, which meant you hadn't been to sleep. And I knew it might be because you were loaded up on methadone. And you said, See, I can call you on Father's Day without Mom telling me what to do. And I thanked you and didn't ask if you were high. And I told you how happy I was you called and how good it made me feel and how much I loved you. Maybe that was poetry. We spoke for a little while about stocks and bonds, about reading the newspaper and going back to school, and then exchanged telephone hugs and kisses and said goodbye. We never spoke again after that. And now, when I need to talk to you, and I'm reaching out for a body gone to the molten stars, I wonder how I can cope. I am not sure I do. But I know that once upon a time, before my heart broke for good, poetry saved me.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael, for reading that, for reading those two pieces. There's something in there also that I can also see, especially in that last one, that poetry, I could also see the feelings of, oh shoot, but poetry saved me. And am I also, of that notions of guilt of profiting also, I can see that in the way the language is used, in that repetition. I feel like that's also there. Is that purposeful?
Well, you know, I honestly don't know what I was thinking when I wrote these. Honest to God, it was like I'd get up in the morning and I would, think, what am I going to do with my life, and how am I going to deal with this? And then I would hear, almost, it was like an oral thing, and I'd hear the line, "Poetry saved me," in my head. And so I would sit down, and I'd write the words, "Poetry saved me," and then I would start to tell the story of that. So what it did or how it communicated an intention or anything, I have no idea. And it went on like that every day for days. But I had to say, I heard it, and I said, I should write that down, because it's got that sound. I hear it. It's like someone's whispering in my ear saying, dead kids. Yeah, dead kids. Yeah, dead kids. And so I would just write these words down. So, but I mean, in retrospect and looking at it, I can see that there is this kind of, well, at least this, I like poetry saved me, but I couldn't help you.
Maybe you could help others through that. And what comes to mind, and I know it's, you could honestly, that it would be probably beyond painful, but a book called How Poetry Saved Me, and utilize that to
Well,
about the process in order to help other individuals who might have gone through similar things, that one should never have to go through.
Yeah. I know that I in trying to work out how I felt about a book and what I should do with it, I ended up going to this woman who's been teaching about death and dying and grieving for 30 years. And I asked her to read it, and so we could talk. And I asked her, well, what do you think can I do with this? I mean, does this have a value to people who are grieving, or is it just going to depress them? Because I thought, well, who wants to, if you've lost someone, who wants to hear someone going on about the experience? And she said, this is what people need to be able to communicate like this. And I think it would help them communicate. So, it kind of gave me some motivation, say, okay, let me go out and see if this has got a value to anybody else. But I needed to do it for myself. I had to do it for myself. I would have died.
It reminds me of, I don't know why it comes to mind that, to be vulnerable, that I had, upon the words of, death and dying, that there was a woman, she was I forget what particular order, but some type of Buddhist monk of some type, who taught at Pomona College, who taught for, can't recall her name. She taught a class called Death, Dying, and the Afterlife of Eastern Religions that I took while I was studying in undergrad. And I remember I was driving, I lived in downtown LA, and I was driving in the car, and it's like, there's this friend of mine, I could say his name, he's passed, Taylor Nelson, and I hadn't heard from him in a while, and we used to talk on a weekly basis. And you know, I had something that he had given to me of a personal book that I like kept, you know, in the center divider of my car, and we would talk, you know, when I drove out to class, and we would talk like at least once or twice a week. A good buddy of mine, he used to call me Corwinius. I would call him Nelsonius Hall. And no, and then like got to class, I had found out like, you know, this thing, it's like, who is this? It's his mom and stuff, and he had passed away. He had asphyxiated from ayahuasca, you know, because of his asthma and stuff, and he was sober for many years, and then boom, I'm about to go into the class. And they're then immediately just talking about death and dying, and I'm like, I couldn't hear a single word that was being said, and like it felt like, you know, I'm showing up late to the class, like 15, 20 minutes late, and because I'm standing there, and I'm like, how do you do that? How do you do that? And
Yeah.
I don't know, it just comes to mind for some reason. I have no clue why.
Yeah.
And I don't need to know why. Yeah.
And there's a lot of people now who are, I mean, think about there, you know, 400,000 people who died from COVID, and more expected to die. And there's all their families and children and parents and relatives and friends and loved ones that are all
I have
dealing with this grief.
I have a friend who's currently in the hospital, just trying to hang on, you know.
It's horrible. It's horrible. There's a lot of grieving going on in the world.
And you know, but we don't have to. I guess there's grieving alone, and then there's grieving alone together, and then there's grieving together. You know, I'm Jewish, and I guess Rothenberg, you're Jewish. Yeah. You know, and there's the stages of you know, sitting Shiva and all that stuff.
Right.
And you know, I've been thinking a lot about, you know, the dead don't really die. You know, I've been thinking about that I meant the living don't die, the living live. And what does that mean? And I've been thinking about Modani, you know, the awakening prayer, and then about the mourner's Kaddish. And I don't know why I'm saying this. I just I think it's important, and you know, thank you. And there's so much in the world, and you know, could you imagine what would have happened had you not had poetry?
No, I really, I didn't. And then, I mean, it was all I had. And then I had a grief therapist who I was meeting with, and she was really great. And I still see her, and she said, had told me had I considered art therapy, and I was kind of not really receptive to the idea. It didn't seem.
What? That doesn't.
I don't know. I was being stupid. I was like, I don't know. You know, what am I going to do? Make basket weaving? I don't know. My son died. I don't want to sit and make. She said, no. I said, you just want me to shut up. And she said, no. She says, what I want you to think, I think that maybe through art, you may be able to articulate and deal with some things that maybe you have not dealt with through words.
Mm.
I said, okay. I trusted her. She was very cool. She was very cool. So I trusted her, and I started. She had me go see an art therapist that she knew, and actually that was really, really great for me. I mean, I have not stopped drawing since that day. I just draw all the time, and it's been incredibly calming and exciting and discovery, and it's nonverbal, so it's for someone who's spent a life of always a verbal thing of words, the idea of colors and lines and the unpredicted. Someone said to me, "Oh, Michael, that's great. You should sell your drawings." And I'm like, wait a second. I have no baggage about drawing. I haven't spent a whole life trying to get published or in galleries. None of that nonsense is in my mind about why would I want to ruin a good thing by getting into the venture of my art. Hey, this is like, I do this. You know what I mean? It was like a funny thing. I had this funny feeling about like, well, why would I want to get into that when I'm gonna like be an artist? I'm gonna be the best. I'll be famous. I'll be published. I'll be like.
And then there's that weird sick part of our mind that then does that. And it's so weird when the mind goes to those places, because I almost like, I'll get into this. For me, I have this thing where then I'll go into this thing where it's, I do tons of comparisons, and then it's this raptor mode. I call it raptor mode because it's like a Tyrannosaurus Rex. It's like when I see the word rapacious and it kind of bleeds you dry, but it's like a T-Rex. But the T-Rex has little tiny arms, so it can't really grasp much. So it wants a lot of stuff in front of him or her, or it, so it wants a lot in front because it can't extend outward. It can't reach for long things. So it wants it now. So I think of raptor mode, and I don't like raptor mode. I don't like it. It's not a nice place to be.
Yeah. So I said, I'm not going to, I mean, if someone says, "Oh, I love your drawing. It's really great. Can I buy one?" I go, "Okay,
it's totally
fine,
different.
Sure." Yeah. But like, I'm not, I just want to it's been very, very helpful. So, art in general, poetry and art have been extremely useful for me to great therapy.
I'm not sure if I, told you, or really, I don't think I've told anyone on the show, but, I do abstract nudes, actually.
Cool.
And I'd be happy to do an abstract nude of you.
Do I have to take my clothes off?
If you want to, but it might charge you. I might charge you extra. I'm just joking. I'm messing. But I actually do abstract nudes, and that's something I took a class in high school of this, where they had new models, and I just loved it. And it's there's something about it, and there's something about that, and there's something about putting your hands on the paper, using all these things, the texture that can't be described in words. It's very soothing.
I get in there and I like
attack.
I don't even know what I'm doing. I mean, I can't draw.
Splatter paint is the best.
Splatter some paint, and I started putting it in the oven and baking it, like I would, because it dries it really fast and it makes the paper kind of crunchy and gives it a kind of like texture. And Virgil Suarez, he's like, yeah, bake it, put it in the oven. I'm like running upstairs with and then I would I kind of bake it, and then I'd take it in the sink and I'd rub it off and things would come out of it. And it was just this kind of random thing. It's like, this is great. This is fun. And like, oh, wait a second. That's kind of pretty. I mean, to me, right? It's like,
I guess that's what you call baked goods.
baked goods. You know, it's like, so
Sorry, I
love,
couldn't help it.
I love baked goods. So it's been a lot of fun. I don't have some built-in built-in baggage around it. So I'm more feeling very spontaneous about it. And I think it's helped me with my writing to loosen me up too. So, and maybe help me process some of my emotional stuff that has to do with the loss of my son.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Speaking of processing emotions, and speaking of baked goods, would you, Michael, like to put some books in the oven, not burn the house down, but maybe just like spiritually burn the house down, but in a good way? Like, yeah, in a really groovy way.
A great idea.
And create the crack of dawn saying baked goods, also known as the OTSCP of Assiduous Dust, on the spot collaborative poem.
Yes.
I told you there would be a weird, awkward, like, what are you talking about intro.
That was it was very awkward, and I loved it.
Yeah, yes. It's awkwardness is an art. Yeah, I think there should be like, there's the absurd and then there's the awkward. There could be like a philosophical novel about that, maybe, who knows. The awkward. Okay, so what books do you have out for us today?
Today I have On Bear's Head by Philip Whalen.
And it's up to what pages? What page?
Page 354 to 355. I have As Ever by Joanne Kiger, page 50 to 51. And I have Persian Pony by Michael McClure, pages 64 to 65.
Okay. I have out The Beat Book, edited by Ann Waldman, and I have that out to pages 230 and 231, which is Lawrence Ferlinghetti. So it's the end part of Pound at Spoleto, and then going into Ladakha, Buddhist Biker, and then some of Crow Magnon. So that's 230 and 231. I have Ray Bradbury of Fahrenheit 451, and I have that out to pages 134, 135. I have Jack Kerouac, Old Angel Midnight, to pages 50 and 51. And then I have Gregory Corso, The Happy Birthday of Death. And I have that out to pages 64 and 65. So that's the poem Park. Sounds good. You know the name of the game. Would you like to start us off?
Okay. Wreck something. Heavy equipment, grapes and oranges, your skin covered with shit. The large house with their dogs.
Drink my house with bird jaws and Bell Electrical lunch tree.
Rawr. Pushed, or was you shoved, floating or flying?
The scene of the window in my eye carried bloom from the valley gray,
great beauty and stillness, hoodoo, padded in sight, hiding in meat,
whirring spring, abandoned by children. Again, you guess the window, the diamond rumble that drapes the body of traffic watching me.
microbial punishment, heavy sleep, magic stories. Without it, you are chased. The winds come. No, no, no.
Animal helicopter, dramatized life in color, the color of books with witchy library sunlight, making a clink in the Tatis Mata Golorgra, the sunniest
Hummingbird necklace,
a single bed,
hammer, trigger, wax, wind, densities, mammal, shivering,
eating statues, eating the solstice of God, eating luminosity, the window, oblivion.
white cement, damn,
Remained
huge,
but now my heart takes abandoned life.
over me.
You think that's a good place to stop it? Yeah.
That's good to me. How about you?
Yeah, that sounds great to me. Yeah. What do we call that? Thank you again, Michael. Yeah, round of applause.
What do we call it? Well,
Yeah.
you called it something in the beginning. I thought I forgot what it was. I thought that would have been a good name, but
I forgot what it was. I like that. That's good.
we could call it unexpected news.
Unexpected news. I like it. I like it. Unexpected news. Well, thank you. It was unexpected news having you with us. Any last words, Michael?
Thank you, Joshua. Thank you for being such a good guy and so full of heart. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And thank you for all that you do. And keep on writing and keep on baking art. Okay. That's a wrap.
It's a wrap.